Greetings, my good bitches. The name's Francis, Coke Francis. I'm an editor, Twitch streamer, drag artist, and I'm here because Fallout New Vegas transed my gender. I hope I'm not alone in this when I say that sometimes I still find myself logging onto the dumb bird app. Am I just a sucker for punishment? An agent of chaos who wants to watch the world burn? Or am I just a JRPG nerd who really enjoys bullying TERFs? All of the above, actually. But unfortunately, as much as I would love to delete my account, the Dumb Bird app remains a constant source of ideas and inspiration for my videos. So you can imagine my excitement and horror when I discovered that a Steam curator had written and published the Woke Content Detector. This list is the ultimate Bible for those who are just so passionate about gaming that their make or break when deciding whether or not to play a game is if they might see two men holding hands. Or even worse, women who do things. Or even worse, the existence of people of color. I mean, who do these devs think they are? Acknowledging the existence of things? People play games for the escape. How could they escape to their racist little safe space when there might be black people in it? But naturally, as a gamer and a drag queen and someone who loves bullying people with advanced brain rot, I just had to check this list out for myself. And sure enough, in a list containing 1,463 entries, I found dozens of games that I own or have played, some of which are even some of my favorite games of all time. Not all my favorites, unfortunately. God forbid they ever saw Lala Escargot or these two divas from Persona 5. Just imagine the steam coming out of their ears if they saw this positively depicted, openly gay character in Final Fantasy XVI. Let's be real, they're just mad that this blonde baddie picked a different average white dude to bang that isn't themselves. That's the only reason someone would make a list like this in the first place. Because literally nobody thinks about gay sex more than these people do. So today, join me as I use this handy dandy guide to see if my game collection is, in fact, too woke. But before we do, if you are a fan of watching a very tired drag queen talk about nerd shit forever, I ask that you please run to your nearest GameStop to lament over the fact that girls keep invading your safe space with their cooties. But when you find that most of the staff is female because it's the year 2024, before your inevitable and deserved humiliation, live up to your reputation by going ahead and unzipping your pants and dick slapping those like and subscribe buttons as hard as you can. So these highly esteemed internet scribes kindly divided this list into 3 tiers. Recommended, meaning there's no woke content, informational, meaning there's mild woke content, and not recommended, meaning there's extreme woke content. And by extreme, this ranges anywhere from displaying a rainbow to including a black character. So viewer discretion is advised. You'll also see practically every not recommended title flagged with pro-DEI messaging, even though they never actually clarify what that is, because they don't actually know themselves. Also, part of the reason I'm making this video is because a lot of you guys asked if I could make more gaming content like my Final Fantasy video, but unfortunately that one was just way too much work for very little payoff. Plus, YouTube demonetized me for saying that Square served "See you next Tuesday" when they made Final Fantasy X. And apparently the algorithm likes it more when I roast conservatives, as long as I don't use their big scary no-no words. I am at the mercy of this company that is currently paying my goddamn rent. Anyway, unlike the Final Fantasy video, the gameplay shown in this one is not my own, but I will link all the videos and creators in the description box. To kick this off, I was delighted to find that one of the first titles listed was none other than the Devil May Cry reboot. Now, for those of you who've seen my Twitch channel, you may have seen me stream this game, because it is, get ready for it, my favorite Devil May Cry game. Yeah, I said it. I'll give you a minute to get all your bitches and moans out of the way. To be abundantly clear, I'm a big fan of the DMC series as a whole, and DMC 5 is probably objectively the best one, but the reboot is my favorite. Sorry, not sorry. It has the best level design, the combat is peak, it has one of the coolest boss fights in the entire series, and I have absolutely terrible taste in men. And luckily for me, the woke content detector has concluded that there is, in fact, no woke content in it. I don't know, y'all. It's one of the few DMC games that actually features a female character being smart and useful. Plus, she has body mods, something that you guys apparently rail against in Cyberpunk 2077. According to this guide, Cyberpunk 2077 is not recommended due to, quote, overtly pro-LGBTQ plus messaging, overtly pro-transhumanism messaging, whatever that means, features a trans character and flag, uses body types instead of biological sex, and body modification encouraged. So as you'll see in like 95% of these, one of their criteria for being woke is overtly pro-gay or pro-trans messaging, which is usually just like a gay person being there. Something else they get very triggered over is when character creation menus use body type over biological sex. Christ, I can't imagine being this boring. They of course got all pissy about this in Baldur's Gate 3, especially due to the non-binary / other option in the character creation menu. Horrifying. If I'm playing a fantasy game taking place in a fantasy world, I better only see things that I believe in real life. I love how it says optional homosexual romance. Listen guys, no matter what gender you make your character, banging a Asterion automatically counts as gay sex. And you'd be hard pressed to find a player who didn't bang baby girl Asterion. I have yet to find literally any mention of the overtly pro-LGBTQ plus messaging in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Don't worry. The woke content detector knows and sees all, like Santa Claus. It's bad enough that they just introduced the words they and them to the English language. Wonderlands refers to male and female body types as this one and that one. What's next? Those ones? Crazy times we live in. It couldn't possibly be that the Borderlands games typically try to insert humor in their gameplay or anything. This was an intentional, targeted attack by big 4th grade grammar to hurt their fan base's fifis. As we know, however, understanding humor and nuance are among the first to go when one's brain cells begin dying off as a result of prolonged exposure to Mark Kern's Twitter feed. Thankfully, we've been warned about the problematic character creation menu in Saints Row the Third. Sure, they keep the strict binary of male and female characters the way God intended, but be careful, you anti-woke warriors. You'll also have access to unrestricted voice options. Men have deep voice, female have high. Yeah, so apparently varying voice pitches is considered woke now. Jesus Christ, this is all these people think about. Their bitching and moaning over body type, over biological sex continues into one of the most controversial games of 2023 for some reason, Hogwarts Legacy. Now, please know that my partner and I pre-ordered that game like a matter of days before JK started falling down the grifter rabbit hole, and I wasn't about to waste $70 goddamn dollars. I remember when we first started playing this game and we could not stop cracking up at how Joanne's head must be exploding at the fact that your character automatically has they them pronouns. Damn it, if I'm making a character in a fantasy world, they better be able to fucking menstruate. This guide is also very upset that, quote, 1800 Scotland somehow has diverse LGBTQ plus characters, but the existence of dragons and thestrals and shit is perfectly acceptable. Race swapping is a big source of their hurt feelings, you see. It certainly didn't slip past them with God of War Ragnarok, one of my favorite games of all time. In fact, they were so upset over my favorite character Angerboda being race swapped that many players have been requesting a mod to make her white. According to this guide, no one in Norse mythology is described as having features consistent with sub-Saharan Africans. Except for Geirmund the Blackskin. Oh, and all the other confirmed counts of Black Vikings. Not that it matters or anything like that, or it's, you know, a video game. This of course carries over into the Dead Space remake, where supposedly multiple characters have been race swapped. To make matters even worse, Jacob Temple is now bisexual, the ship's bathrooms are now gender neutral, and there are diverse ads, whatever that means. Honestly, I don't know how the devs didn't think we'd notice stuff like that when being chased around by one of the most genuinely terrifying monster designs I've ever seen in a video game. Good Christ, those necromorphs still live rent-free in my head at all times. But not as much as bathroom signs live rent-free in the ever-decaying minds of this list's authors. Real talk though, this might actually be the only other creature that has viscerally disturbed me as much as the centaurs in Fallout. Speaking of which, as you probably already know, I am a huge fan of the Fallout series, so much so that I've actually named my Patreon tiers after its protagonists, and I've got a big feeling that the author of this list is also a big Fallout fan. Otherwise, he wouldn't have flagged these games as just informational. According to them, gender-neutral bathrooms are overt pro-DEI messaging, but the gay agenda in Fallout New Vegas is considered subtle despite the perks that let bisexuals deal 10% more damage. Oh, and all the male and female sex workers you can sleep with regardless of gender, and the so-called minor LGBTQ NPCs that have their own storylines and quests and are travel companions.
Since our membership isn't open to outsiders, some members think that obligates all of us to procreate. You can guess which camp her parents belong to.
Or, more than that, depending on who you are.
I need a good-looking doctor to help take care of me in the big bad wasteland.
Overt flirtation will get you everywhere, you know.
Do you guys have any idea how much it physically pains me that Arcade Gannon, a gay anarchist doctor, is voiced by Zachary Levi? Same thing in Fallout 4, where you can fully romance your companions regardless of gender and get an experience bonus every time you sleep with them. I'm convinced that the author of this list just didn't want to give up his faves. Also, in case you're wondering, I always romance Curie and Hancock and nobody else.
Come on, love. Let's get this freak show on the road.
And clearly, homie didn't even play Fallout 3 because you quite literally can't romance anyone in that game. Unless he's referring to Bittercup, the token sex worker, I damn near forgot about her. Then again, I don't obsess over stupid shit like this, but that's just me, I guess. They also give a warning for mild homosexual content in The Last of Us. I just want you all to keep in mind that, quote, a minor male NPC is revealed to have been in a romantic relationship with another male character is somebody's make or break when deciding whether or not to play objectively one of the best games ever. And I hate stealth games. They also warn us about the ever so slightly hinted at you'll squint if you see it gay character in The Quarry, a game that I'm still mad over the ending to, but it was ultimately my fault. Also, my partner met Ted Raimi at Vaughn's a few months ago. Is that relevant to the rest of the video? No, but why leave it out? God, I laughed so hard when I saw that Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney made it onto this list. There were a lot of JRPGs flagged by the woke content detector, and that's because
Final Fantasy and Japanese RPGs are the gateway into homosexuality.
Ace Attorney got flagged due to the character of Jean Armstrong, who, quote, behaves in a flamboyantly effeminate way. They categorize this as subtle LGBTQ plus messaging. Girl, this is how you define subtle? Okay, sure. Miss Armstrong. Very demure, very mindful. Again, it's just a character existing, but I just never thought I'd see subtle and Jean Armstrong in the same sentence. These next couple of games may seem innocent, but let me tell you, my good bitches, underneath the wholesome calmness of games like Unpacking or the brightly colored utopia of Bugsnax, these pro-DEI deviants have inserted their insidious gay agenda that will surely ruin your gaming experience. Unpacking is a game where you simply unpack and organize things throughout a young woman's life, from her dorm room at an art school, to her apartment with her first boyfriend, to her eventual house with a lady? And they have children? How could that be? Everyone knows child is from penis and vagina. Penis on boy, vagina on girl. How two girl in the same house if not harem? They also threw a tantrum over a character in Bugsnax, a PS5 launch title that is way too funny to play when you're high. The offender in question, none other than the NPC Floofty Fizzlebean, who is non-binary and uses they/them pronouns. Imagine being a grown adult playing Bugsnax, seeing a character named Floofty Fizzlebean, and taking to the internet because you heard the words they and them and you just couldn't help but be like... So with everything you've seen so far, you can only imagine how they felt about Spider-Man Miles Morales. I mean, it was bad enough having, quote, predominantly displayed pride flags in the first Spider-Man game. What's next? Black Lives Matter flags? Sure enough, they're there in the Miles Morales game, but here they've shortened it to BLM as they always do. Same way they say DEI because they can't outright admit to being racist. Not only that, but the protagonist is a new POC main character who overshadows Peter Parker. Do they not realize that Miles Morales was a character in the comics and movies and is you know, canonically a Spider-Man? No? Wait, what am I saying? Of course they don't. They're well aware that a simple Google search would debunk literally all the horseshit they spew. Their existential nightmare of projected white replacement theory was only worsened with the release of Dave the Diver, a highly addicting game where you play as, quote, a fat guy who can somehow deep dive and swim long distances without trouble. Oh my god, you guys, it's a video game! Also, I've been skinny all my life. I cherish the moments where I get to be a big bitch in video games. Like when I was a druid in Diablo 4. I have never been that much of an absolute unit in my entire life. Oh yeah, and they also pitched a fit over the sushi chef being black. Of course they'd be triggered over a chef that actually uses seasoning. Moving on to the Gamergate renaissance we've seen flourishing over on Grifter Twitter. Boy, was I disappointed to not see Stellar Blade on this list ever since men threw a fit over Eve having slightly less visible pubic bones. No pubic bones equals woke, duh. Also woke, removing a very cool minigame from Dead Rising that allows the player to get points for taking pictures of women's cleavage and other body parts without their consent. Now, to be fair, the reason that this was a thing in the first place is because the protagonist in Dead Rising is not a good guy, and he's not supposed to be. He is quite literally a sleazebag, and that's the entire point. But they're also bitching about another character being race swapped, and as we know, this is enough for them to mark a game as not recommended. They're already pitching a fit over Erika Ishii being the lead in Ghost of Yotei. Why? Who knows? As a result, she's blocked a lot of people on the Dumb Bird app, for which they're mocking her even more. They're claiming she's gonna be the downfall of a game that isn't even out yet. Why? Literally, who knows? But their anger at people with vaginas so rudely invading their safe space dates back to Ghost of Yotei's predecessor, Ghost of Tsushima. What with their, as usual, overtly pro-LGBTQ+ and DEI messaging and, oh God, the horror. Many female frontline combatants and leaders. How could they even have time for that when they should be raising offspring? Asian women should be submissive. That's what all the racist losers on 90 Day Fiancé taught them. I love how one of their complaints for this game is, quote, multiple LGBTQ+ NPCs with the player character responding with modern day sentiments. Like, imagine the lack of self-awareness necessary to out yourself as prehistoric.
Make me a sandwich, bitch!
And even when women do fulfill their biological duty as baby factories, they still aren't happy, as evidenced in Wolfenstein 2. Apparently, their pro-DEI messaging in that game consists of the main character being saved by his strong, pregnant girlfriend, who also manages to fight off a wave of Nazis. Listen, the reason they're just making shit up for this one is because they're actually just butthurt over Nazis being portrayed as the bad guys in the Wolfenstein series.
Hans, are we the baddies?
Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart got away with just a mild warning for pro-DEI messaging. If only they hadn't included a minigame that includes, quote, singing a song about women in respectable positions of power. Listen guys, if you've ever played a Ratchet & Clank game, you'll know that the life of a Lombax has absolutely no chill, regardless of gender. Just let them have something. I also have no recollection of Rivet saying they are pretty awesome as amputees. I have no idea what that's referring to. Like a Dragon got a slap on the wrist for a singular party chat titled Gender Politics, which, quote, provides lighthearted social commentary on gender discrimination. Just to be clear, there are 109 party chats in Like a Dragon. These party chats usually contain no more than like 7 to 12 lines of dialogue. And just one of them that slightly and humorously touches on the topic of gender discrimination was enough for these softy sad boys to flag this game. The grown men who dress up as babies as a kink though, that's well, that's just fine. Their daddy Elon Musk does it, so why shouldn't they? Now, Saints Row 3 might have gotten off with a slight warning, but as you know, these woke devs just keep ruining every beloved series with those silly gays and silly ladies and their shenanigans. The intro for the Saints Row remake includes, quote, a diverse group of female combatants. They're just Cartman in that episode of South Park where he has nightmares about him and his friends being replaced with women of color. I do wish they'd bring back Black Woman Cartman though. She's the best character they've had in a minute.
Oh, God damn it!
Oh, and don't forget the quote, many diverse characters fighting back against an unfair socioeconomic situation. No, not heavy social commentary. It couldn't possibly be that the Saints Row remake just wasn't that good of a game?
No. It's the
minorities.
No, we're wrong.
God, the one that I laughed the absolute hardest at was when they mentioned Disco Elysium's quote, heavy social commentary regarding communism, whether pro or anti is unclear. Now, judging by the last few titles that we looked at, you could come to the conclusion of, oh, to these people, woke is when woman. Not necessarily good, bitches. NieR Automata and Bayonetta, two of my favorite games ever, have been officially classified as having no woke content. But Francis, both those games have female protagonists who absolutely kick ass. I thought these guys hated strong women. No, not at all. Because 2B and Cereza are characters that they can still jerk off to. Don't you see? These freaks are perfectly fine with strong women, as long as they've got a great ass. The beautiful story of sacrifice and learning what it means to be human in NieR is irrelevant when you can just self-destruct 2B to explode or dress off and you can look up that angle all day. By the way, I say this as someone with art of 2B on my wall. I'm surprised they didn't flag Bayonetta as woke just for Luca's man bun, or the fact that she is obviously drag queen coded.
I feel like a f***ing celebrity in this town.
Another game that allegedly contains no woke content, Final Fantasy XIII. There are other Final Fantasies that got flagged, but not this one. Lightning is just that attractive that she made these idiots completely forget about the token black character, and the terrible combat. And obese scuba divers simply don't provide that kind of distraction for them. Which brings us to our Final Fantasy section. In my video about this series, I did mention that I haven't played every Final Fantasy game yet, yet, so there were a few on this list that I hadn't played. Most of the ones containing no woke content were games 1 through 6, the games that my partner grew up playing as a kid. No wonder he turned out perfect. Except for Final Fantasy IV, which got flagged for subtle pro-LGBTQ plus and DEI messaging. I'm racking my brain to think of an example of this from a Japanese 16-bit game from 1991. Here's another example of this list author just not wanting to be mad at any of his faves, which is why Final Fantasy VII and VII Remake were flagged as informational, including the subtle pro-climate activism. I'm gonna read that again. Final Fantasy VII, the game where you join a group of eco-terrorists and fight against a mega corporation that is draining the earth of natural resources, has subtle pro-climate activism. Proof that they were sufficiently distracted by Tifa as well, even though that absolute goddess wouldn't touch them with a 50-foot buster sword. I'm assuming the forced cross-dressing is when Cloud has to sneak into the Honeybee Inn dressed in drag and absolutely slays Henny.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
On their not recommended list is Final Fantasy 15, but not because of the shenanigans that four good-looking himbos could get up to in the middle of the wilderness on their own. Come on, y'all really think Prompto never suggested anything?
I'm all sticky and gross.
Woohoo! Bath time!
No. It's because, quote, in Lestalem, women work in the factories while men raise the children and take care of the household. And to make matters worse, there is no explanation as to why this is the case. Oh my god. Oh well, at least Crisis Core didn't have any triggers for them. Zach Fair, you beautiful bastard, you've done it again.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
There are only a few more games in my collection that made it onto this list, and according to the author, none of them contain any woke content. First off, Stray, one of the best indie games made in recent years, where you play as a cat navigating a decaying cyber city that's devoid of humans and only populated by their former robot companions. I don't know, y'all. Sounds like some subtle pro-climate activism to me. And a cat as a protagonist? Obvious DEI hire. So what does that leave us? Power Wash Simulator and Peggle. Cool. Obviously I made this video so that we could all have a nice big laugh at these types of folks, but the fact that I was even able to in the first place is kind of really sad, actually. I've had a lot of moments throughout my years where I was really unhappy with myself and my life and my circumstances, and yet I can't imagine being so unhappy that I would ever consider living my life like this. On the other hand, how amazing does your life actually have to be to where your most pressing issue is a gay person being in a video game? Here are some highlights from the comments section.
There's a new Sword Art online game. Is it woke? The Japanese are increasingly becoming woke like Capcom and Square Enix, but maybe still hope?
I just want a good non-woke game. I want the sheer madness of Black Ops 2 where I f shit up and kill and slaughter my enemies and feel like the man.
Don't we all, Diva?
I understand some people only want us to point out the most extreme examples of political messaging in games. However, ignoring the more subtle examples is how we got to this point in the first place. We try to point everything out so you guys can be more informed and decide for yourselves.
People, keep it civil. I told you all before. No heavy swearing without any good reason. This includes name-calling others, even if you know full well they're agents of the sodomite agenda.
Is Jones woke? They're all straight men, but they a little fruity if that helps. Thanks, and praise Jesus, brothers.
Your life is great. The games are great. You just suck around these games. On the positive side, this list has recommended what actually look like some really awesome games that I haven't tried out yet. So to the other gamers out there, I'll link this list in the description box so that we can keep supporting these devs who are actively scheming to insert their insidious homosexual agenda. Be careful though, you might end up like me. After all, Fallout New Vegas transed my gender. Speaking of transitions, let's check out the winning comments from the last video. No Hints Here says, yeah, I could totally restyle these. I can make these look good. Me, an agender teenager with zero fashion experience outside of playing Roblox games. Saf is Scared says, I never knew graphic design as my passion was also a clothing style. And finally, Harmony Soto 2065 says, I live in the same state as the lady who wore the black Trump dress. She got famous here for trespassing at a children's playground that was closed during the COVID-19 shutdowns. She kept screaming at the officers that it was her and her kids' constitutional rights to be there at this playground and egging them to arrest her because she didn't think they actually would since her husband is a cop. They did anyway, lol. The whole thing outraged the MAGA weirdos here and they staged a bunch of sit-ins at police stations, other parks, and even the mayor's house. Our state attorney general pardoned her, so she never got any actual legal consequences. Now she just does this, apparently, LMFAO. God, I love lore. You too can be featured in the next video. Leave a comment below. I will pick my favorite ones and give you a shout out next time. If you would like to guarantee your name being featured at the end of every video, please consider joining my Patreon. If you join any of my membership tiers that are conveniently named after Fallout protagonists, your name will be mentioned at the end of every video. You might also get other cool things like access to my Discord, behind the scenes content, ad-free and uncensored versions of my videos, exclusive community chats in my secret box, and now many more. So if you love my videos and my drag, you can support this channel directly by clicking the link to my Patreon in the description box. If you'd like to see me simp for my favorite non-woke game characters and get visibly frustrated in real time, please follow me and my beautiful co-producer Mitchell on Twitch. I stream most Sundays and now sometimes Saturday afternoons Pacific Standard Time. We are still raising money for the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. If you would like to see even more of my clown mug elsewhere, please consider following me on Instagram or TikTok. My handle for all of the above is at queencokefrancis. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't done so already, please run to your nearest GameStop to lament over all the girls invading your safe space with their cooties. But when you find that most of the staff is female because it's the year 2024, before your inevitable and deserved humiliation, live up to your reputation by going ahead and unzipping your pants and dick slapping those like and subscribe buttons as hard as you can. Thank you again to all my patrons and subscribers who have helped my channel grow and thrive the way that it has been, and of course, as always, until next time.